Welcome to Food and Loathing, your weekly glimpse into the Las Vegas restaurant and bar scene and all of the fun and insanity that surrounds it. I'm Al Mancini, joined by Jason Harris and producer Rich Johnson. Since this is our first episode, it's probably a good idea to tell you what this podcast is all about. Short version. After 20 years of covering Las Vegas and over 15 years of covering the local dining scene, I've come to the conclusion that nothing I've ever written has been nearly as valuable or as informative to the average foodie as the typical conversation I get into with my foodie friends. So why not just invite you into these conversations? And that is how we started things 5 years ago this week. A lot of things have changed in those 5 years, including who has shared hosting duties with me. But I'm here today. By the way, I'm Al Mancini. Here today, looking back on all of this with Gemini Stevens, who's been in that position for over 3 years, Gem?
I think we're going on 4.
4? Yeah. You've been here for a while.
I think I came in just after the first year, right at the end of the first year.
Okay, cool. Well, it is, yeah, I mean, it feels like you've always been here. Rich Johnson is also here with me today. He has always been here every single episode since day one, either on the air or behind the scenes. So Gemini, Rich, are you guys strapped in, ready to revisit some of our conversations as we celebrate 5 years of Food and Loathing?
I'm so
Ready?
excited.
Yeah. Let's see what you got. See what we have collected, the flotsam and jetsam of our time here making the digits.
I think the hardest part is trying to condense 5 years into, because it's not just a best of episode. It's you're really putting something together that talks about like Vegas. So 5 years of Vegas is a long time in this industry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, I feel like because I've been covering this scene for 25 years, a lot of the things we covered in those 5 years, we're going back and retelling the stories. I mean, first of all, I wanted us to have a lot of fun shooting the shit on this show, but I also wanted us to kind of preserve some stories, right? So maybe when the alien overlords come down and all that they're eating is us, and they want to know a little bit about how we ate, maybe, this will be in the AI. They'll be able to hear it. I've always loved oral histories. I love history as told by the people who were there, and I think we've got a little bit of that together today. So that's what I'm hoping for. If you want a crash course in Las Vegas dining, we're going to give it to you in 90 minutes, okay? So I should note, by the way, that most of that opening episode, which you just heard, that was recorded on location at the grand opening of Resorts World with the little tiny bottles of Johnny Walker Blue that we had when we opened it up.
Oh, I'm not mad at that. I missed that. Damn.
So that was June 24th and June 25th of 2001. Huge thanks to everyone over at Resorts World. They've literally been with us from day one. As I said at the top of this episode, I wanted this show to invite everyone into the conversations that I and my friends were already having with our foodie friends. We began doing exactly that on episode 1 when I sat down with Metro Pizza's John Arena and Chef James Trees. John had just posted a passionate argument that Las Vegas casinos weren't doing enough to celebrate this city's own culinary talent, and James had his own perspective. Honestly, listening back now, it's amazing how much of the next 5 years is foreshadowed in this conversation.
I don't think that the local chefs get the recognition they deserve or the opportunities they deserve, and it's like every hotel is always in love with somebody from out of town when there are people all over the city that are doing amazing things and should be given that opportunity.
Okay. Now, I thought it was odd because it seemed like you were talking about Resorts World. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But I look at the Resorts World opening and I look at how many local chefs are actually in that building right now. I mean, we have Nicole Brisson doing 2 restaurants in there with Breza and Bar Zazu. We have James Trees, who I'm about to ask his opinion on that, doing Ma's Bar. We have Marigold, which is coming from Billy Richardson's organization here in Las Vegas. Nori Bar, I believe that's also from Billy. And we have Gatsby's.
Nori Bar, Tekka Bar.
Tekka Bar.
So it's like Nori Bar is APC, A Perfect Bite. That's the people I'm paired up with to do Mott's Bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have them. That's also Vegas-born. And then we also have Gatsby's, which is Click Hospitality, which is a Vegas-born thing. So I get your sentiment that in general, you don't see a lot of Las Vegas restaurants being brought onto the Strip. This one seems to have them. I'm wondering if you just feel they're still not doing enough with that number of people. And how do you feel about people like James, the fact that they are there, and Nicole?
I think it's wonderful, and I think they deserve to be there, and I think there should be more of it.
Cool.
And it shouldn't just be Resorts World. And it's, that was a reference particularly to pizza.
Okay.
But in terms of other opportunities in other hotels, there should be those opportunities. I don't want to name names, but why are they bringing in somebody, some pseudo-famous chef from New York or from England when they have Chef James here?
Right.
Well, and if I could jump in, Al, Nicole, we all consider a local and part of our community, but she became ingrained in our community through another restaurant group from outside of here, right?
Yeah, through the Batali group. For
Right.
those who don't know, yes, she was Mario Batali's pretty much running his stuff here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, so she's, we consider her part of the Las Vegas scene and Las Vegas local, and we're excited that she's there. But I hear what John's saying because I'm thinking about it right now. The only restaurant I can think of on the Strip is Harvest by Roy Elamar, who came up through the ranks and got his name on a restaurant in a casino from starting in a casino as a local and working his way up.
And I think you guys are all right. And it's weird for me to be the guy kind of defending the casinos here because that's not, not normally where I come from.
You sold out, bro.
Yeah, I've sold out.
Well, I mean, I actually, I don't want to say unfortunately because I agree with you pretty much. I mean, don't get me wrong. Resort World is a sea change in a sea of the same. Right, so I see them actually doing the work to do exactly what John's talking about, which is diversify. And I get it, Steve Aoki and his brother, doing a pizza spot, but they're not. They're not doing the pizza spot. They're doing the yakitori thing, right? So their dad, LA guy, grew up in restaurants. Those boys grew up in restaurants. He's a world famous DJ, and they put a little thing in there. I mean, honestly, there are a million people they could have asked. They could have asked, John Allers. They could have asked Vinny. They could have asked you. They could have asked. But it's just. I understand where they're coming from, but they have done a lot, and I think they need to be recognized for actually reaching out and doing the work. There's a lot of other companies that need to do that work.
Over the last 5 years, we've had a front row seat to the evolution of dining in Las Vegas as it happens. And we've shared stories of the evolution over the past 25 years from the aforementioned Al Mancini and others who have been there. For example, the opening of Bellagio in 1998, a major turning point in dining on the Strip. When the resort celebrated its 25th anniversary in 2023, Michael Mina told us how he got involved with the project.
They contacted me and said, would you be interested? We have one space left that we weren't sure if we were going to do it. If the hotel was going to do it themselves. It's a fish restaurant. We want it to be a fish restaurant, but we'd love to entertain possibly Aqua coming to Las Vegas. And so at that point, I didn't know much about Las Vegas. I had only been here once, and it was for 18 hours for a bachelor party, and I didn't really remember that. And so I said, let me go to Las, they said, why don't you come out and see what's happening? And at that point, the Bellagio was pretty much built. And so you really got a good sense of what the Bellagio was all about, what it was going to be about. But I still didn't know. I was worried about how am I going to get product. And then, honestly, John Louis Paladin was here at that time. And there wasn't a lot of chefs here at that time. And I went and had an amazing meal at Napa and I was very close with John Louis, so he had told me all about, how he was getting product. And so that relieved the tension of that. And then next it came to Steve having to visit my restaurant in San Francisco, and which was great and really exciting. So there was multiple times there was reservations, said he was coming, but, he's very busy. And so probably about the sixth time that there was a possibility of him coming, he ended up coming to the restaurant. And I'll never forget the day as long as I live. He said he had, only had 15 to 20 minutes for dinner. And so I sent out caviar parfait, and he sent it back and said, I don't eat caviar. I was like, oh boy, I just used up 10 minutes. And then I sent out the tuna tartare, and he said, that it was really spectacular dish. And then said, keep going. And he ended up staying for, 3 hours and really walked me through every inch of Bellagio. And I think that was right then was really the moment that I was like, I really understand how special this is going to be. And honestly, 25 years later, it's the same timeless, design and feeling that it was 25 years ago.
Could you have imagined 25 years ago that you would have had the history you now have in the city of Las Vegas as a whole with so many restaurants over the years?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think that Bellagio obviously had so much to do with that happening, and not just, I think it was brilliant bringing this collection of chefs and restaurants to Bellagio, because it was an immediate way, I think, to change so many people's perspective about gaming and about what it means to go to Las Vegas. And I think that not only did it have an effect in Las Vegas, it had an effect on gaming worldwide, and what the possible is, and you look at it now and you think about people that come to Las Vegas and don't even gamble, and I think that I don't think 25 years ago you would have thought, oh yeah, that food and beverage is going to be as big of a part of Las Vegas as it is today.
How has the audience changed in those 25 years? Are they more receptive to what you do?
They're just more knowledgeable to the fact that they have studied before they come. Like any great food city, what has happened in Las Vegas is people have a list when they get here, and you want to be on that list. And so you have destination diners now that you would have in any San Francisco, New York, Paris, doesn't matter. Las Vegas has it for sure.
One thing that Las Vegas has a reputation for in the culinary community is a bit more cooperation between chefs at what would be competing restaurants, right? The willingness to lend a hand, that you guys are so friendly in this room.
I think that's 100% true, and I wouldn't even say it's cooperation. I think there's a love between everybody, because I think that everybody, in all honesty, I think a lot of people would say that in your home city, the media wasn't as accepting of you going to Las Vegas 25 years ago as they are today, obviously. A lot of us went through the same type of thing where it's like maybe didn't make sense right away. Now, obviously, it does. And I think that everyone, I can tell you this building, it's just, that this group of chefs has just been, to be able to all work together, Julian, John George, myself, now Wolfgang's here. I mean, yes, we were all friends, but we all made a connection in getting this building open that's kind of a lifelong connection.
For many, clubs, DJs, and electronic dance music are synonymous with Las Vegas, and that's thanks to pioneers like Sean Christie, who currently runs Carver Road Hospitality. We had him on the show, and he explained how he managed to convince Wynn Las Vegas to enter that world.
We had Blush, which we called a boutique nightclub. It's really an ultra lounge. I just got tired of hearing the word ultra lounge, so wanted to put a different phrase on it. And at the tail end of Blush, EDM had started bubbling. My background in Boston was working in large-scale nightclubs, and we booked talent from all over the world. So in the mid to late 90s, and we were really kind of, somewhat ahead of our time, and worked with all these great people, including who my boss at that time was, Andy Massey, who gave me my first club job and brought me to Las Vegas. And so we started playing around with the idea of talent at Blush, which again was a small venue. So we did Cascade on Halloween of 2000 and maybe it was 9, had a huge draw. We paid him obviously a fraction of what he makes now. We did LMFAO, for my birthday, I forget which one. We had Flow Rida and started really thinking about programming. So when Steve approached me about doing Encore Beach Club as from a company perspective, I actually went to my longtime friend, one of my best friends in town, Shecky Green. His name's Jonathan Schechter, and he's founder of The Source magazine. It's always been kind of a great friend, impeccable taste as it relates to all music, but has always been someone who I've been able to have as a sounding board. And, we were looking, and I showed him this 55,000 square foot floor plan, and I said to him, how do you think, we could fill it, because he actually started then working with us. And he said, well, you have to do large scale programming. And so actually because he's a very close relationship with Eminem, we got Eminem to commit to doing the opening party of Surrender. Steve Wynn turned us down, and Eminem hadn't performed in a long time. And so it was kind of, it was really disappointing. But then as we pivoted, I went to Andrew Pascal, who was the president at that time, and I said, I talked to Cascade and his manager at the time, Stephanie LaFera, who's now in charge of dance music for William Morris, and was trying to get him for a residency. And then he pitched, actually me, hey, let's do this every weekend, do what, quote unquote, call an Ibiza style residency, which is every week of the summer, which I hadn't thought of. So I went, and again, the money was insignificant in today's numbers, but was very significant in those numbers because Excess at that time was so popular, and they were paying DJs $1,000 and they were doing record revenues. So kind of Victor Dre's approach was, you don't need this. But I knew that if we were going to compete with A, Wet Republic in the day, and then B, flip the club really with the same venue, just a little box on the inside, that we needed programs. So then after I pitched Cascade. Then similarly, I went to Steve Aoki and I asked him if he'd be the music director of Surrender, which is to say that he'd have a year-round residency, help us curate, Friday nights at Surrender. And although we weren't doing it every day, it wasn't always a superstar talent or a DJ, because we were kind of in that initial first wave, Steve quickly saw the results, and it was the first time that really a club had dented Excess on a Friday night, and that was with Steve Aoki. And so once Steve Wynn started seeing kind of the attendance in a part of the hotel that was off the beaten path, then he started giving a lot more leeway into being able to spend money. And then, then the big moment was when Jesse Waits at that time, Victor was no longer at the Wynn, and Jesse was there, kind of on the Excess and Trish side. We got together because what at that point in time found was that people didn't want to play Surrender as much. They wanted to play Excess, but they did want to play Encore Beach Club. So when we kind of combined forces and we could put in offers that used all the venues and used the power of the resort in its totality, that's when we really kind of, in that next year, around 2011-12, captured the lion's share of the marketplace.
Were you prepared at that point for obviously the salaries that are paid to DJs right now, but also the amount of money that gets spent at day clubs and at nightclubs when somebody decides they want a cabana? I mean, I think people who are out of market would be blown away by what cabana minimums can be in this town, right? And how much money gets spent. And I think that idea of, would EDM kids, be able to spend that money, or would EDM appeal to a much larger audience? So were you surprised? And was there ever any kind of, clash between the customers that patronized Wynn and the customers that patronized Wynn's clubs?
The Wynn, because Wynn owns everything typically, and we really worked with all forms of the hotel to try to make it as seamless of an experience as possible. I'll give you an example. Excess used to line up in front of stores. And so where the queue is right now for, if you were to be looking at the club left and right, those are all retail stores. So, Steve at that time ended up blowing out all the retail stores and taking the lines on the inside versus in the walkways, so the walkways wouldn't be so congested. So there was always a tension amongst those customers, but you're in Las Vegas, and actually as time went on, I feel like just like going to a show or maybe a steakhouse or kind of some of the check-the-box moments, nightclubs acquiesced into a category of, even if I'm maybe not the target demo of a nightclub, I still want to be able to go home to Kansas City and say I saw somebody at a big Las Vegas nightclub. So once you put people who have discretionary income who are in their, the age at which they can spend maybe $5,000 or $2,000 or whatever it might be, that really catapulted that check average. And the other thing that, made the model work was the proliferation of ticketed websites. So really, nightclubs had never had. Nightclubs were about exclusivity, and it was about, can I get in? And when you're filling 5,000 room nightclubs on a nightly basis, it's not about exclusivity, it's about inclusivity, because really I have to be able to depend on a base that comes out of the quote-unquote gate or the cover charge. So all the convergence of technology with kind of the stigmatisms of nightclubs being mainstream and not a dirty business, all of that kind of happened. And then, I just remember one of our Saturdays that we did over a couple $100,000 in revenue in 2010 at Encore Beach Club. And I was happy because we were making money. And then I just remember years later, all of a sudden we're doing $1 million every Saturday. And it went, pretty quickly. And that was driven by the need really to pay for escalating artist guarantees.
In 2022, acclaimed vegan chef Tal Ronan realized the Strip was ready for its first upscale vegan restaurant and brought his LA hotspot Crossroads Kitchen to Resorts World.
And LA's always had a lot of plant-based concepts, vegan, whatever you want to call it. But there was never a kind of more formal fine dining restaurant in LA. They were very casual, great spots, but we were the first to kind of have a full bar and a wine program and a restaurant that was, cozy and a little more formal, white tablecloths, booths, banquettes, chandeliers, everything that is the opposite of what people think plant-based is. There's no bamboo or green paint or anything like that. No loud juicers going in the background, no smell of wheatgrass. So when we started talking to Resort World, it just seemed like a great fit because it was a very similar situation. There's a lot of great plant-based food in Vegas, like really good. But not a real formal place on the Strip. So it seemed fitting, and we got an amazing place right off the casino floor. We're very excited for you guys to see it.
Great off-strip dining is now commonplace throughout the valley, including the Summerlin areas. But it wasn't always that way. We spoke to restaurateur Elizabeth Blau about the challenges of opening her restaurant Honey Salt in Summerlin in 2012.
The area where Honey Salt is located was not known as being hospitable to small, mom and pop kind of restaurants, right? It was known for chain restaurants, and we saw a lot of high-end quality restaurateurs try to do things in that area, from the Macchione family to the Ahn family, and the comments were always, Summerlin just isn't ready for anything beyond the P.F. Chang's, and nothing against them, but, whatever. And even some of our friends, that there was a great restaurateur in that very space prior to you. So do you think Summerlin was not ready, or did you help change what Summerlin was looking for? Was it a question of what you accomplished in finding the right niche, or was it just a question of timing?
I think a little of both. I think that the Corrigans with Vintner's Grill really, were trailblazers and being there first and really doing something different. It has been challenging. There is certainly a lot of support for chain restaurants. I think Whole Foods opening was also, kind of another evolution in the Summerlin dining scene. But I think, what we did with Honey Salt, and, we joke because Honey Salt is less than a mile from our house. It's, we really wanted to, bring the food to the community that we enjoyed. And, one of our marketing taglines was, this is, how we entertain in our home. And so the interior design I did, with going to stores and relying on some of my incredible design friends to help me. But, it was really kind of a neighborhood feel, but with everything made homemade from scratch, but, not really trying to, push the envelope in any kind of way. And so I think that, that was why it was well received. Also using the freshest ingredients, trying to partner with farms, trying to use responsible and sustainable fish and meats. And so I think that really, resonated with the community. And then, there's always a little bit of luck and magic that goes along with it.
But the idea of using these higher quality ingredients, knowing where they come from, the farm to table aesthetic, that comes with usually a higher price point. And what you find when you're competing with the chains that had dominated this area is that a lot of people, whether they have money or not, because this is certainly a neighborhood where some people have money, but a lot of people need to be educated before they realize what they're paying for, right? That having a good chicken costs a little more than having a factory grade chicken. Was there any resistance to the fact that you were bringing in these better products, but there was a higher price point, or were you able to educate your customer base as you did this as to why, it costs more for a Mary's chicken than it costs for a KFC chicken?
Well, not that we live and die by social media, but when you look at what the biggest pushback in scores from people, it definitely is the price point. There are definitely a lot of chains where you can get a big portion, for less money, and you have no idea where the provenance of those eggs or those chickens come from. And so I think that's something that we still struggle with. But again, I think that as a country, not just in Summerlin, but across the nation, that people really are paying more attention. I mean, there's so many health issues that people are facing, and so I think that not only are there Whole Foods and Sprouts and in many stores where you can buy things, but you can go into Target or Albertsons and there are many offerings of more whole foods and organic ingredients, which was something that you never could find beyond chips and and soda in the past. And so I think there is more education on the consumer point that if you want quality ingredients, if you want things that are not coming from frozen boxes, that if you want talented chefs cooking things, that you're going to have to pay a little more. But I think we've always been sensitive that we are not charging anywhere near what you would find in maybe in a casino property or or on the Strip. So it's trying to balance that happy medium and still being approachable.
The Las Vegas Arts District is now one of the most popular dining destinations in Las Vegas, thanks in part to the success of James Tree's Italian restaurant Esther's Kitchen and other restaurants he went on to bring to the neighborhood. His French concept Bar Bohème was inspired by a trip Trees took to France in 2022, which he discussed with Al and Rich shortly after he returned.
I have this theory, and I think it was backed up by the trip, and I can create my own echo chamber on this one, but I think that what we as Americans think of French food is not what people who are in France are eating every day. Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot more international. I think it's a lot more modern. And so I went with open stomach and open eyes to Lyon, and then we went to spend a day in Trois Gros in a place called Ouche. And then we went to Paris and kind of attacked Paris. And I have to say that I was pleasantly surprised. Number one, the service across the country was fantastic. They were personable, they were caring, they were into who we were, and obviously the LA hat kind of helped me out. They're like, you are not from here. And here's the thing is, like, I am not going to insult somebody by walking in to the restaurant going, oh, bonjour, and then them saying something in French and me going, I'm American, I don't speak your language. Yeah. So I'd walk in.
I like to pre-identify as the stupid American.
Yes, like, exactly. So the hat helps, right? Yeah. So the LA hat, Dodgers hat helps. I saw a lot of New York Yankees hats over there, which I wasn't really into, but the Dodgers hats, I was the only guy. So we got into Lyon, and the first night we had an amazing dinner at the best traditional bouchon in the city. Bouchon,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did it have a real zinc bar?
it didn't even have a bar.
Oh,
This was a 35-seat restaurant that the first seating was 8 o'clock. They do 35 covers, and they don't care. They don't care if you don't have a reservation, just go somewhere else. They're just like, hey, we've been open for 100 years. This is what we do.
But what about their Yelp reviews?
I could only imagine like the way like this guy was busting like balls on the guests at all over the restaurant. He was amazing, and he was personable, and he was wearing a camo T-shirt, and like I was like, this guy's awesome. This is not what I think of when I think French waiter, right? And the food runner was this lovely gal, and they kind of walked us through the menu, how it works. It was, they basically, you order an entree, tell them if you want cheese or dessert, and then they bring out like kind of dishes of the day, right? And this is a traditional thing in the Bouchons in Lyon, which is the gastronomical capital of France. Basically, you get all these awesome like little things. So that's where we had our first bite of lentils. That's where we had these amazing beets with smoked herring. It was a very more interesting, light style of food than you would be expecting. And then of course, like they had a couple of the classics. So they had the pike brochette, right? Like which is the pike with the sauce nantois, which is the crayfish sauce, and then like we had a bunch of other like great modernish kind of like light dishes. They had a great pork chop on the menu, and then we did a blood sausage wrapped in fruit de brique. But it was like it could have been heavy, but it wasn't. It was light. It was nice. It was crispy. It was great. It was very much different than what you would be expecting when you think French food.
And what did you discover about the way the French eat? Because that is always interesting. Like, and you think about this with any type of ethnic cuisine. I'm going out for French food. I'm going out for Italian food. And you have something in your mind as to what it is, right?
Right.
But when you live in that country, you're just going out for food. I mean, not to be a corny,
No, you're
grade school
1000%
joke,
right.
but it's just food. So how do they eat in France compared to how we eat here? Do they have a higher level of ingredient, a higher level of execution, or
Yes.
is okay?
To be very specific,
Yeah.
I mean, you go to those markets and you see the markets on the streets compared to their supermarkets, compared to what we have as our choices. Even like, I mean, if you put the Leal in Lyon, the Paul Bocuse, market up against any market anywhere in America, it's gonna fall short. Like it's just better. The ingredients are better. The technique is better. They've been like, they have guys making pate for the last 500 years, like at one stall in like this market.
Are ingredients more limited?
No, not at all. In fact, I think it's because
European Union. They can get everything right now.
Yeah, I mean, like
From Europe.
Yeah, I mean, like I saw the most amazing white asparagus. I saw the best strawberries. I mean, like their version of like the fruit section. Like we have all the things that don't rot here, right? They have all the seasonal things like wild strawberries, frais de bois, right? There's things of them, like little containers of them. Currants. Like when was the last time you saw currants anywhere here in America? Last time I saw them was at Santa Monica Farmers Market, probably like 5 years ago. And so, like, these are just the standard things that they have. Like, beautiful rhubarb. There's rhubarb everywhere. There was amazing artichokes. And the freshness of the radishes. Like, you can see it in comparison to, like, I mean, like, maybe, like, that was comparable when it came to like what Santa Monica has versus like, which is one of the best farmers markets in the country, versus what France has just kind of sitting on the street, right? Like their level of product is just better. Their fish.
Are they more heirloom and heritage breeds and things like that you're
Yes.
seeing? A little less created to ship cross country
Right.
and sit on a shelf for
100%.
long period of
100%.
time?
Like, and that's the thing is, and they're just higher quality, or the people don't buy them. Like at the end of the market, there was like just a pile of like boxes that before like they throw them away, they just allow people to come up and just grab whatever you want. Like
Yep.
heads of celery that aren't perfect. I saw a lot of melons go in there that people were picking out melons. They were maybe just a little too soft for them, right? And the rule at the farmer's market is very different than what it is here in America, where like if I'm walking through a farmer's market in America, I'm picking up things, I'm trying them, I'm tasting them. The rule in France is that you do not touch anything you're not going to buy. That is very specific. And I think it's probably smart and probably better than what we do here.
Probably a better idea.
Is it also
You have
more
to squeeze the melons, basically?
Yeah.
You do
Yeah,
that
yeah.
to see if they're ready?
Is it also more seasonal? Do people
Yes.
know I'm going to have those strawberries for 4 to 6 weeks, and then the rest of the year I'm going to do without? I'm not going to go get the stuff that's grown on some factory in Morocco like we do with chili.
They're just not. They're just not going to do that. And so then when we get back down to how the French eat in compared to Americans, obviously they don't really do They don't do fast food at all, and they do smaller portions and they eat better. They eat richer food, like cheeses, breads, stuff like that, croissants. I mean, that's kind of built into their thing. They also drink better than we do.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fucking light beer in France. It's just not. Right? They just don't. They're not gonna waste their time with it. Right. So, I think like we drank better, we ate better than as a normal everyday kind of thing.
Underappreciated French beers.
Yeah. I was like, I get tired of drinking wine because you have wine with every single meal, and like we're going to all these restaurants that are doing wine pairings. And here's the other thing is, a wine pairing in France, they don't do the stupid American thing where they're like slipping a beer or sake or a kombucha with a course. Like, no, like this is the wines that pair with this food. This is why you're here. Let's do this, right? And we had just great human beings take care of us.
I love the concept of here's the food, eat it or get the fuck out.
Yeah, no, like, it was very, very true. Like, I mean, like they do not care if you are vegetarian, gluten-free, anything. They just don't care. Yeah.
That's your problem.
Yeah. Like we're here to eat our food. If you're not here to eat our food, you go somewhere else.
Here.
I completely agree with that. I'm all about that. Like, you know how I feel about people who walk into Esther's and are gluten-free. I'm just like, you should probably be dead by now then. Yeah. Like if you actually have an allergy.
Breathing the air in here.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're already dead. So calm down.
So you went there to get ideas.
Yeah.
So, and of course, for those of us who can't get to France, we will be dining at your restaurant when you open. So what are you bringing back?
And for the answer to that last question, you'll have to visit Bar Bohème yourself. Coming up, building a community of chefs and restaurant workers and developing a set of values. This is Food and Loathing.
Welcome back to Food and Loathing, the 5th year anniversary edition. And for 10 years, from 2013 to 2023, the music, the art, the food festival, Life is Beautiful, celebrated Las Vegas' culinary talent. Shortly before the final incarnation, its culinary curator, Cherie Macy, told us about her mission.
How do you, Sherry, see the role of food in this festival?
You know, like you just said, we are so hyper-focused on being able to showcase what Vegas has to offer, and that culinary footprint of Life is Beautiful, we want people to see that. And it's bringing that community into Life is Beautiful, letting them see what restaurants are here and letting them be as creative and artistic with what they're offering is one of our goals, and it's been something that we've been striving for, since I've been involved since 2018, is really showcasing that local, restaurants from the Strip, restaurants from Henderson and Summerlin, and bringing them down and showcasing all the talents that we have here. And it's, Las Vegas has so much culinary, just showstoppers, and being able to bring that a little bit into Life is Beautiful has been so much fun.
Yeah, and that's really something that Life is Beautiful every single year from the beginning you should be commended on, because a lot of times it's like, okay, people are coming to Vegas to gamble, or they're coming to Vegas to see Golden Knights or whatever they're coming for, and what do we show them for food? We show them a lot of international celebrity chefs. That's what they get when they go to the casinos. What you are doing, more so than most food festivals, more so, and I'll throw some shade at Vegas Uncorked when they were doing that and things like that. More so than even the national food festivals that come to our town. You as a music festival have always said this is Vegas for food. This, we're a great foodie town, but we're not necessarily bringing you the celebrity chefs. We're going to show you the people who really are the heartbeat of the food scene here, and that's been really cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun too, and yeah, like the chefs and restaurant and everyone that's partnering with us here on the footprint, they're our neighbors, they're the people that we, on Sundays and Mondays, where are we all going, to go get some food and, brunch it up. And one thing I love about Vegas, and people hear this from me all the time, is how we are all very collaborative, less than, we're not competitive. We support one another. And so being able to have this platform, which is Life is Beautiful, and let these, culinary artists come out and showcase what they do either in their restaurant and or, play and get a little creative on maybe what they're offering, gets them to come out and do exactly what they wanted to do and how they started becoming chefs, because they're artists. In their own world as well. So being able to see them create these menus for the festival and having fun with it really is kind of like the exciting point of, at the end of the show, we're like, yes, that was so awesome.
Yeah. And, I am excited to say that I've discovered local chefs for the first time at Life is Beautiful because of some of the curated things that you do. I know in the past, I don't think it's going on this year, but you had Diana Edelman curating a vegan farm stand, and that was the first time I ever had Pat's Egyptian, and I love Pat's Egyptian.
Same, Pat's
right?
was the first time for me at Life is Beautiful also. Yeah.
So, that I am supposed to know everything that I can know about Las Vegas food, and yet I still go to this mainstream concert and get a tour around these little food stands and go, holy shit, here's a place that was in my own backyard that I hadn't discovered yet. That's amazing, and that you're bringing it then to a national crowd, that maybe they go home seeing that Las Vegas is not this cartoon that they'd seen on television for all these years.
Yeah.
In 2018, Eric Gladstone and some off-strip chefs created the Las Vegas Unstripped Festival to showcase Vegas's homegrown talent. Food and Loathing has recorded episodes at a few of those festivals. We
Always
interviewed
fun.
Eric and co-founder James Trees all about the event. We've done that a whole lot of times.
Oh, it's my favorite.
And here is Eric explaining it to us back in 2023.
We put a lot of thought into all of the details of this event. We think of it as an event that's for chefs, by chefs, so we challenge the chefs to do one night only, unique dishes, things that they want to do. We tell them to push the envelope and do something that they think they could never do in their restaurant, or that they think people will not, understand, but it's a dream of theirs to do. We want them to chase that passion, and chefs really respond to that, and they've always said it's their favorite event to do, which is also really gratifying. We make sure they have a good time as well.
Do what you're going to do that you could never do in the restaurant, and do it on a propane gas stove in the middle of a street.
Well, yeah, or whatever equipment they need, honestly. But yes, right. I mean, it's definitely a challenge. What's really cool is a lot of times, there's many examples from the first year onward of people doing that dish, being surprised how much people liked it, and it ends up on the regular menu.
Look at that.
Oh, cool.
And that's really the part of the goal of this, is to connect foodies or whatever you want to call them, people who love food, with the chefs, and really have them communicate and let them understand what a great food scene we have here, and let the chefs understand that, if you try it, if you build it, they will come kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you push the limit, if you take chances, we want to show you that there's an audience for that, and we will, at the same time, we want to show kind of the rest of the world, really, that Vegas has a serious food scene, that it's not just about the celebrity chef outpost.
I was just going to say, as a consumer, one of the things I love about this event is that it is not about strip chefs. It's not about the celebrity. It's not about, some massive PR firm coming in and, bringing people in from out of state to do these different foodie events.
Yeah, I don't
these
get
are
that.
These are neighborhood chefs. These are local chefs. These are off the strip chefs that some people may never have heard of. But it doesn't mean they're not making great food right here in Las Vegas.
The whole idea is that, we're never going to really be a food scene until we create our own heroes.
Yeah.
If you keep bringing in heroes from other places, even though they're great, and a lot of those celebrity chef restaurants are still great places. But you're never going to have a scene that we can call our own until we've got our own heroes. So the idea of Vegas Unstripped year after year is to build up those heroes and get people to know and connect with them and have a great experience.
Local Las Vegas chefs have always loved to collaborate at festivals, pop-ups, and one unbelievable, only in Vegas location known as the Men's Club. For a short period of time, Chef Steve Geddes operated 2 gourmet kitchens and a topless club just off the Strip, aided by chefs from several casino fine dining restaurants who would get off work on the Strip and join him for some late-night cooking. Al and his former co-host and celebrity chef Rick Moonen spoke to Geddes and Chef Gary Lamort about it in a cabana at the Sapphire's Strip Club Day Club.
The building is still there. It's called Sophia's. It's kind of behind City Center. But at the time, it was called the Men's Club. And at the Men's Club, they had one of the most gourmet kitchens that you would ever find in a gentleman's club anywhere in America. And the man running it has just joined me. He's Steve Geddes, and he's going to tell us a bit about it. Also joining me is another one of the chefs from that kitchen, Gary Lamort. Of course, I have Bob Cranston here because he just likes to be by a topless pool, and he was also a big fan of that club. Bob's a big wine guy that I use as a source for so many stories over the years. And Rick Moonen is still here. Say hi, Rick.
I've had my involvement in the opening of the Men's Club. I was a regular customer there. I sent tons of people there. I enjoyed the whole concept of it. The food was out of control, delicious. Probably would have gotten a Michelin star just for the cuisine. The mastermind behind it, Stephen Geddes, who's going to speak in a second, he was a master sommelier. Decided, you know what? I've worked in a lot of kitchens. I worked with some amazing chefs. I want to go down the road and I'm going to be a chef now, because I think next he's going to be a brain surgeon. I don't know. Stay tuned. But he did an amazing job, and for that I was attracted like a bee to a flower.
Yeah, I bet you'd probably trained a couple of the chefs that were in that kitchen too.
We all end up working.
If I had to venture a guess.
Yeah, there was some connection and an opening party story yet to be told.
Okay, well, what's really interesting, and Steve, man, first of all, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Pleasure to be here, Al.
Can we hear you? Which mic are you
Pleasure
on?
on number 2.
You're on number 2. Go ahead.
I believe I'm number 2. Yes.
Yeah, there you are.
Go,
Thank you.
All right. So really great to be here, Al. I mean, we've been friends for a long time, and this story is really about Vegas. This is about what's possible in Vegas and the extremes and the depths of entertainment boundaries that Las Vegas stretches at any given time, and that's what started this craziness at that place.
What's really interesting to me is that so many of the chefs that worked at Men's Club have gone on to be great chefs in their own right. For those who do not know Steve, who's sitting right next to me right now, he not only ran Men's Club, but he has worked in some of the best kitchens in Las Vegas. He's also a master sommelier. Steve, run through some of the places that you've worked.
Well, I've worked for Charlie Trotter, Charlie Palmer, Mark Miller. Andre's been my mentor since I'm a little kid. Just been lucky to open and work in restaurants in New York, Miami, Los Angeles, San Francisco,
Cincinnati.
Las Vegas, Cincinnati. And it's to me, it always comes back to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is my home, and every time I've been abroad working and training in other areas, I always find myself back in Las Vegas, excited to be home. And the one thing that separates Las Vegas from anywhere else in the world is that anything is possible. And that was the impetus of why this started, was the thought, could it actually happen? Could we actually create a real, true gastronomy experience inside of an environment that has so many other wonderful, stimulatory distractions? Yes. In Las Vegas, yes. And if you can't do it in Las Vegas, you can't pull it off anywhere.
It had a Cirque du Soleil aspect to it. There was acrobatics going on in the main area as well.
Absolutely.
It was like, you didn't see that. You saw stripper poles, but this was on steroids. It was truly unbelievable.
Now, my wife went in there, and she said at one point in time she saw tigers walked along the one of the lofts.
Well, when you mentioned, I always respect people who are innovators and push the boundaries. The only other gentleman's club I remember is a place in Denver, right by the Pepsi Center. And Mark Thomas was the somm there, and I made a sales call on him. It was called Diamond Cabaret. And they had a beautiful, gorgeous club, private rooms, whole thing. And the restaurant was a steakhouse, and it was separated by a glass wall. So you could sit in the dining room, but food and entertainment was not allowed to coexist.
Right.
So that's why when you say only in Vegas,
Yeah.
And they did a ton of business. I mean, big stakes, huge wine list, but the two did not meet.
And we have two of the chefs that came through that here. We have Steve and we have Gary Lamort, who's also here. You've heard his voice. Gary now feeds, among other people, the Vegas Raiders with honest hospitality, but also a fine dining veteran who's worked at some of the best restaurants in Las Vegas. But you guys had a lot of other chefs that went through that kitchen as well. Could you name, for those who are really deep into the Vegas food nerd scene and who are going to know the names, you can rattle off some pretty cool names that worked with you at Men's Club.
Yeah, and Gary can confirm as well.
I can't hear you, Steve.
I think some of the key first names are Sean King, came up to be our sushi guy that went on to be Momofuku and many other great restaurants fame. Gary FX Lamort. Johnny Church was our chef de cuisine there. And Johnny I had met through the Charlie Palmer group.
And he was new to Vegas at the time, right?
He'd been here for a bit. He'd been working for Charlie for quite a while. So
at Oriole?
At Oriole and the Sterling Club. And then Kyle Johnson, who's the chef at Strip Steak right now. Brett Balaika, who is a corporate mercenary for Michael Mina. Yes. And his brother. Both of the Silver brothers.
I forgot about the
Silvers. If somebody's from out of town and they're hearing these names, they may not mean anything, but if somebody's a foodie in this town, every name you mentioned is kind of a legendary chef or sommelier in this town. And you guys all worked there together at Men's Club. But let's clarify first. Was that everybody's main gig at the time? I know it was for you, Steve. Or was this a deal where guys would get off of their jobs on the Strip and then they would come and help you out at Men's Club?
Both, all the above. It was a combination of things. I mean, we had, Sean moved up from California to be our sushi specialist there. And then, but, Gary had a full-time other job and would come pick up some shifts like Graveyard. And
I worked for Thomas Keller 12 hours a day, and then I went and worked at the Men's Club for another 4 to 5 or 6, depending if it was busy.
So what was it that drew somebody like you, who already had a great job with Thomas Keller, to go into a titty bar at the end of the night, which I said I wouldn't use that term, but that's what I always called it back in those days, man. I was very crude.
I want to answer that. It's the culture.
Wait, Rick, where are you?
I don't know.
There you are,
Rick.
Rick.
Can you hear me?
Good.
No, it's the culture, period. The culture that was created. Everybody was part of a cool club because they knew it's like, let's just go in there and kick ass. And they did. It was awesome.
For me, it was definitely the people in the kitchen and like the culinary team, and the story was also like compelling. But you could also tell that when it was happening, that 12 years later, you'd probably be doing a podcast about it.
There was some crazy stuff for sure.
15 years later. 15.
I mean, we were doing crazy things like blind tasting 15 soy sauces to pick the soy sauce.
Yeah.
I mean, Ingrid Bingus came in and vetted the place. Chef
Thomas
Keller's
scallop Nazi.
Scallop mercenary. And she came out and looked at the restaurant, knew it was in a topless environment, and was totally about it and said, you guys care about doing the right thing? Let's do it in this environment. And that right there alone is the reason it can work in Vegas. People want to combine all of their sensory stimulations into one package. And you can, we tried to pull it off there at a higher level.
One of the coolest Vegas-born concepts we've covered has been Yukon Pizza, which began in the backyard of owners Alex and Danny White, moved on to the Vegas Test Kitchen, and now has its own brick and mortar in the Huntridge district. But its origins are much older.
Yukon Pizza is really a family affair, and it goes back several generations. It starts with your family's, I guess, love affair with sourdough bread and sourdough culture. Could you talk a bit about how the sourdough starter that is being used here at Yukon Pizza, to tell me a bit about the history of that starter, because I know that there are real food nerds out there like myself who this is just a really sexy story if you're a food nerd.
Yeah, it's really incredible, and it's something that we kind of learned to really hold on to as an heirloom story, and an heirloom sourdough as part of our family. So the story that we kind of have and been told passing down the generations is that in the late 1800s, at the turn of the 20th century, during the Klondike Gold Rush, my great-great-great-great-grandfather ran a general store, mercantile kind of thing, and he sold wares to mining camps during the gold rush. So that included equipment and clothes and also food stores, and so part of that was sourdough cultures. That's how you made bread and kept food going, so you don't have to worry about carrying yeast around. So in the late 1800s, early 1900s, this sourdough traveled with my great-great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, 3 and 4th generations. There's a lot of greats in there. But, they traveled from the Yukon Territory to Anchorage, Alaska, down to Seattle, and down to Southern California, where my parents actually lived in a really small town called Trona, California. So that's the very early history of the sourdough. From my memory and my brother's memory and my sister's memory, for us growing up, it was my dad making sourdough pancakes every Sunday morning. Sourdough pancake Sunday was the way we kicked off the day before we had to go to church and do the whole thing. And then on the weekends or during the weekdays, my mom would make sourdough biscuits for dinner and make bread. So growing up, it was very much a normal part of our day-to-day life, day-to-day routine. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older when we go to friends' houses and they'd make pancakes and they'd make bread, and wasn't the same thing. It didn't taste right. It looked like a weird, giant, thick stack of not the pancakes we were used to eating, and kind of come to learn that the sourdough is very special, and it's kind of a cool, unique thing. And so when I left for college, I went down to Las Vegas here for film production. My dad handed me a mason jar, and it had the culture in it, which is just a mixture of flour and water and the sourdough yeast. I've been growing and living with it for over 100 years now. It was something he handed off and said, you feed this, take care of it, do with it what you want. But we've always had it in our family. He remembered, eating it as a kid with his dad and his grandpa. So it's very much a memory, childhood thing for us as far as carrying the tradition and keeping it alive with feeding and making food for our friends and family. So in college, I went to school for film production. I became a cameraman and started doing commercials and TV shows and things like that. And that afforded me time and money on the side to start a passion project, which was I really liked making pizzas in my apartment. It was a great way to host parties, to meet friends, drink beers and know people and get to have a big party in your place. So I would start to hold little pizza parties in my place, not really focusing so much on the pizza, but more just trying to hang out with people and drink beers. So it grew from there. As the years kind of went on, I started doing more and more elaborate research and learning about making pizza at home that can feel like it's come out of a restaurant.
And I love that story about Yukon. We've talked about them a lot on this show, so I'm just super happy to be able to share something like that because it's unique.
Yeah, and it's so Vegas, isn't it?
It's
and
so
it
Vegas.
Was such a period in the Las Vegas development when Jolene was doing that Vegas test kitchen and giving people like that, and it was post-COVID and just so really cool. So
right?
Yeah, I'm glad we had room for that.
And then to have such a far-reaching thing as this 150-something-year-old sourdough, give me a break. This is amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay, up next, community values, national recognition, and the future. This is Food and Loathing.
Welcome back to Food and Loathing, the 5th anniversary edition. And few chefs have had a bigger impact on Las Vegas than Jose Andres. When Al interviewed him in 2022, Andres was quick to share the credit with the Vegas-based teams that operate every day.
I always say that we the people is the 3 words I love the most about becoming an American. And I think we need to give value to we the people. I always say, and especially in this world of, I don't like the word celebrity chef. I'm a cook. I barely know how to run one of these restaurants. I'm surrounded by people that know how to do it as good, if not better than me. Here you saw David Thomas, who is the executive chef, who happens his family, his mother and dad, she was almost crying, came to visit him in Las Vegas, and she's eating right now outside in the restaurant in Bazaar Meat. I have Ramon with me, Ramon Martinez, who is right now at Jaleo, the Cosmopolitan, making sure that the paellas are as good as always. I have here my president of the company, Sam, who knows Vegas very well. I'm surrounded by team members. Yes, I come 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a year. For me, when I come Vegas, it's always very invigorating and very special. Obviously, every time, and especially when I open more restaurants, it's only so much time you have to dedicate to the people. But I always tell them that the restaurant is not going to be good because me, and because sometimes they put your name right in front. And the restaurant is going to be good because they decide to be good, and they take ownership. And so what you describe means that from every dishwasher that puts pride, every cook, every prep cook, every manager, the hostess, the chefs, the sous chefs, not my restaurant, but every restaurant. The experiences we get, if something is wrong, it's probably because of the chef. I mean, especially the so-called celebrity chef. But if anything is really good, it's because those men and women that sometimes are nameless. Even it's not true. When we have customers, guests that they keep coming, the guests are always talking to me by name and last name of the amazing time they had with this waiter, with this host, with this chef. And this is what gives me joy, that what I built is no egocentric restaurant based on me and my name, but a place where anybody can dream. Like the same way when I was 15 and I began working in the kitchens of others, I worked there because they gave me a place to belong. They gave me opportunity to be next to them and serve and learn. And what I'm trying to do, I'm 52 now. I've been more than 35, 36, 37 years in this industry. What I try to do is to try to give the same window and the same path for learning and belonging to a place in the same way other chefs when I was younger gave to me. And at the end of the day, that's why I'm here. Like I visit my other cities where I have restaurants. For me, many of these guys is people living with me 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Like Jimmy Pomarol, he's been with me almost 30 years. When I see him here, I know things are going to be fine because he's the one that has been running these places, not me.
And I love this man for Las Vegas. I mean, yeah, he's a celebrity chef, and sometimes that doesn't have the greatest connotation, but oh my God, he puts himself everywhere. He puts himself in harm's way. He does all of these things for a global community. And I have been so lucky not to interview him, but ask him a few questions once or twice at various events. And I just, I won't lie. I've got a crush on this guy.
Oh, yeah. He is an amazing, amazing guy, and he's been kind enough to speak with me many times over the years. That interview, by the way, was a two-parter. That was an hour-long Jose Andres interview that I pulled that clip from, and that was in our first year of operation.
And that doesn't surprise me because he wants to be involved and actually give you a moment. It's not about a soundbite. It's about understanding what they're doing, and like I said, total crush.
Let me add something there. We know a lot about Jose. The nation, the world does because of his work with the World Central Kitchen. And his people have been in harm's way. A couple of people have died doing that. He's been down in Venezuela as we record this. And as we record this on this date, we just learned that he took part in a New York Times survey of the best regional hot dogs in America coming up on the 4th of July. They had 8 categories: Chicago dog, the Cincinnati Skyline chili dog, the Detroit Coney dog, something from West Virginia, something from Arizona, a New York traditional Coney Island, and, drum roll, the Seattle dog.
Don't tell me that bastardization. You two are both in Seattle as we record this right now. Are you going to go eat a cream cheese hot dog now?
I mean, we might have to. We are getting together later, so.
Okay.
Guess what won?
Okay, you Pacific Northwesterners. It's not happening.
Decreed by the GOAT, Jose Andres, the Chicago dog won that.
Roll next interview, please. Rich, you intro this one.
All right, let's get back to it. Vegas has created more and more opportunities for culinary professionals, and women were not always the beneficiaries, but that is changing.
Thank God.
Thanks to groups of people like Women's Hospitality Initiative, seminars like the Women in Hospitality Leadership Conference, and community events like Picnic in the Alley. Jim and I, you've been involved in a lot of these things, especially Picnic in the Alley since day one. And you talked about it on this show with, as we mentioned before, festival co-founder Jolene Menina.
Now, tell me a little bit about you mentioned the women. It's all the women.
It's all the women.
So for people who don't know what Picnic does.
Yeah. So Picnic in the Alley started as a way to, it's basically 100% curated by women for everyone. And so that means every element from graphic design to the production team to the chefs, the mixologists, the artists, the entertainers, the speakers, all women. So it allows us to shine a light on all of these amazing women within our community and also connect them to each other, right? So connecting them to each other just makes us even stronger. We understand each other's strengths and we can reach out to them, build relationships with them. And that was really kind of the core of why we started Picnic in the Alley. So the first year we started with about 50 women. Last year we had just over 100 women that contributed to the event, which is amazing. And this year will be pretty similar to last year. So Picnic in the Alley is it's not a nonprofit, but the profit does go to charity. And this year we're supporting the Women's Hospitality Initiative again. Just like last year, but we've also done, Dress for Success, the Shade Tree.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about why so much of a focus on women in culinary. And so, I mean, I can throw some statistics out there
Yeah.
from Women's Hospitality Initiative,
Yeah.
including the fact that more than 51% of culinary graduates and hospitality graduates tend to be women, and only 7 to 9% end up being head chefs, owners, executives, things like that. What has been some of the challenge that you've faced, because you've been in culinary, I mean, your whole life, that makes this so important to you?
When I did this in the very beginning, 2019, I will say, you're aware of what's going on, but not fully aware, right? It wasn't forefront until really 2019, 2018, when everything was happening, around the world, and we started to really look into it and understand it. Sometimes you're blinded by it when you're just working so hard, you don't even recognize it. What we recognized was from the event side of it and production side of it is every time we were doing these culinary events, that there were no women on the lineups, and it's like, there is an amazing executive chef here, and there's an amazing pastry chef here, and there's why are they not included in these things? And it's not to like badmouth the guys, because we love all of our buddies and the
Of course.
chef, but it was just like, let's lift these women up, you know what I mean, and give them a place to shine. And so it was really because of the lack that we saw in that side of it. And then once we saw that lack, then we started to really like look into it, and then learn all the facts that you were just saying. And that's when Elizabeth Blau had reached out about the Women's Hospitality Initiative and about how we could actually help, right? Do something that's long term to help. For me, I just worked. I hustled, and I did whatever I needed to do and to get it done. I wasn't completely held back, and actually, like, some of my mentors also, it was really like, I've been over the past few years of having these conversations about mentors, like really trying to understand where they came from. Like for me, it was like my grandmother, Elizabeth Blau is actually like a mentor, like to me, like, you know what I mean? But also Gary was.
Yeah.
There were people I could go to reach out if I had a question, to get an answer, and, so there's, I don't know, for me, it was, I'm a different human where I just kind of go, and go. And it's really just trying to help women in general to understand their value. I think that's such a big piece of this, because so many women just don't understand their value. And to help get them. And so this is like the whole thing with Women's Hospitality Initiative of, from the classroom to the boardroom, and helping them get that path faster, and know that path is there.
Yeah. I love working with Jolene, so thank you for putting that out there. Chef Brian Howard and his partner, John Anthony, are best known for their nationally acclaimed off-strip restaurant, Sparrow and Wolf, in Las Vegas's Chinatown. But as Brian explained to Al in this clip, they've also been very involved in promoting mental health care and recovery among their employees.
When we created Sparrow and Wolf and set out to actually open up restaurants on our own, was one of those things to kind of ensure that we created a safe place, right? And most cooks and restaurant workers tend to gravitate for that, because it tends to be a place where you're surrounded by different people with different vices, and you can kind of relate, I guess, and it becomes that band of pirates, if you will. And throughout our time growing and maturing with what we do, we figured, like, it's time to make some kind of efforts and change in what we do, and really start to promote the days of like taking your team out to get trashed after work, or like giving away awards that are mostly promoted by alcohol or wine. And not that those things are bad, I guess, sometimes, but I feel like it's always been the reward or the focus, right, of this industry. And, the late nights and all that, where now our goal is really, at least starting at the top, has always been to find better ways we could be healthier and last longer in what we do, and create better work environments for, especially now that the whole paradigm has kind of shifted in the universe, essentially, with the way people are working, the type of workers that are drawn to us, or the people that are even leaving our industry. So we knew at that point, like, we wanted to double down on what we do. We've always kind of been take a lot of risk company in terms of we're very giving, the things that we've done for our employees. It goes beyond like bailing somebody out of jail, but like, hey, I'm short on rent this month, or, I need an advance, or, how do you handle stress? All these kinds of things we've adapted to be like, okay, well, we give a lot, but really now let's start promoting what we do in a way of like, maybe we can challenge others to be better with what they do, right? And see, there's been so much talk about why the restaurant industry is a bad place or a negative place lately, and it's been glamorized like over the last 2 years, especially more so of like the raging chefs, and that's all you see, but you don't see the good side of it, right? And I guess that's our goal right now, is to be able to say these are the things that we're doing, not only just on the recovery end of things, but creating an environment that is a healthy place, a happy workplace, and a place that hopefully will attract new people to be a part of, because I'm romantic about it still. Like, I grew up watching, all these chefs on TV that showed me I could do so much with food, right? But now we're teaching people the other way, and I hate to see that. I hate to lose what I'm so happy about and what I've been doing my whole life to that kind of glamorization, where now let's build it to be better, I guess. So with the Recovery Workplace Foundation, it's something we started about 2 years ago, and we really just we just want everybody to know that there is a place, there is a second opportunity for you. It doesn't matter what you've been through in life, or the avenues you've gone through. You have a home with us, right? And we can give it a shot, right? And the one thing we've learned, most of those people that have come through our doors are so happy that they have that opportunity. They're the best workers that you're going to get. They're the best team members. They're the prime examples of what we want to be, what our core values are.
And, it's interesting. I've covered music half my career. I've covered restaurants the other half of my career. So clearly that party atmosphere, right? I mean, something that I've always been drawn to just as a journalist, that creative people, they tend to work hard, play hard, and there's a lot of romanticizing of that when you're younger. And I don't even know if it's necessarily all that unhealthy for a 22-year-old kid to get caught up in that for a little while. But as you and I have gotten older, I think what we've seen is the toll that it really takes, and that is where suddenly I don't want to be a guy who's like, well, you shouldn't party, but now I see the people that we've lost to partying. I see and it's not partying at a certain point. It becomes addiction. It becomes something bigger.
It is 100% your escape, and with the Recovery Foundation thing, it's something that I've never really kind of come out and talked about where I grew up and the things that I came from, but addiction has been something that has been huge within my upbringing. I lost my mother at 8 to crack. I lost my father at an early age. He left because of drugs. There was just so much of that throughout that, and I had to do it myself. So I did everything, and I've been to the bottom on my own, but at one point had to make a decision and a choice to go a different route, because I saw the win, right? And for most people, it's really hard to visualize what that win is, right? For us, it's something that is impactful, and I think that's the big thing for us, is that our core values, one of them is legacy, right? And I don't want to just open restaurants because we can open restaurants, or cook good food because it's pretty on a plate, or it serves the purpose of someone's night out, right? I want to do things that, food is one of those things that have always been, that I learned at an early age, brought my family together, even the ones that didn't like each other. Right? It's one of those, it's something special, right? So if we can do things that go beyond the four walls of what we do in the restaurant, and do things that impact people in their community on a whole nother level, then we're playing just a small part, right? And that's much more rewarding than the other end of it,
And given that we have lost so many people in this industry to, I would say, mental health problems in general, but oftentimes those substance abuses are a form of self-medicating past mental health problems. So I feel like everyone in the industry should be concerned with this. We watch The Bear, and they draw huge attentions to the problems, but yet I guess it's good because they're showing people getting assistance. They're showing people get treatment, or at least get counseling, I should say, and things like that. It's really cool. But, talking about what we can actually do in the restaurant itself, what owners can do to make a difference, that becomes, something that nobody wants to go that extra step and really have that conversation. And I feel like that's the conversation that you're having.
Yeah, it definitely makes your life more challenging, right? But the reward is much more greater, than just coming in, like I said, opening up the doors to do dinner service or throw a dinner party every day. It's open up the doors and figure out how you can make impact on the people that are there, because it starts with them first, right? And we understand that, like, if and I say the people because I kind of refer to what we do is I'd rather be in the people business than the restaurant business, right? Because you're cultivating something that can be really special. And if you do that, there's a bigger investment from them as well, which it's a win for everybody at that point, you know?
As you've heard, Food and Loathing has documented the evolution, the challenges, and the spirit of the local culinary world. We've also been lucky enough to be there for some great celebrations. And if there is any doubt about how far Las Vegas dining has come, you need really to look only to Chicago a few short weeks ago. Jem and I was there in the Lyric Opera House with Chef Sarah Thompson of Wynn Las Vegas's Casa Playa, as she became the first Las Vegas chef in 15 years to win a James Beard Award.
What do you think makes you different in Vegas when you talk about the team, especially coming from a Strip property? That's not that common to hear people talk about the team in those kinds of tones. What brought you to that? Has that always been your thing, or is it the team you're working with? How did you get there?
Well, we are nothing without our team. Like, and I feel like I'm the team leader, right? And when I was coming up in restaurants, I worked for small independent restaurants in New York, and at the time they did not feel like small independent restaurants. But like zooming out, they were. And there was always a huge emphasis on the team. There was always a huge emphasis on building together and learning together. And I learned a lot from other cooks and other chefs. Like we're coming up together, right? And here, you don't, well, not here, but in Vegas,
I know what you mean.
I feel like you just don't see that as often. Like you see it a lot with Chef Brian Howard. He's so good with that. But on the Strip, it is a lot different. And it was very important for me to have that camaraderie, to have that dialogue. Like some of my tortilla, like especially because I'm not Mexican, so I look at my cooks. I seek out like to make sure like our food is still authentic, to make sure that they're feeling represented through this restaurant. And how is that going to happen if we aren't like in an environment of mutual respect? And I always tell them too. I was like, we work for a major publicly traded company. Like, take advantage. Like, get the benefits, get that 401k, get those scholarships, do that. But when you're at Casa Playa, it's going to feel a lot more personal. And I want everyone that cooks the food to be connected to the food.
So one of the things that has come up when I hear your name this week is that you have such an impact on the food scene. You have such an impact on the Mexican food scene. And as you say, you are not Mexican. How does it feel to be so regarded as somebody who is bringing that to Vegas? And again, loving our Strip places, but being from a Strip property and being acknowledged from something like James Beard, which is not that commercial. It pulls away from a lot of the trappings we assume of the Strip.
Yeah.
And you have so much autonomy. What has been what has been some of your driving force behind that?
I mean, well, when it comes to like making Mexican food, I'm so lucky to be trained by and working under, like in the past, like some of the best Mexican chefs in the world. And in those styles of kitchen, there's like a lot of camaraderie. And as we are like growing and building and developing our restaurant, like, you know, I still have conversations with other leaders in like the industry, people I've worked with in the past. And again, similar to normal, we want to build each other up. And especially now that there's a lot more Mexican cuisine out there, it's really cool to find different types of inspiration. Mexico is a huge country. There's so many different states, so many different regions, and each region is completely different. Like if you're in Oaxaca, you're going to get a completely different type of food than you would in the Yucatan or in Baja California, and just learning a lot more about the different states and learning a lot of, like, I have a lot of people in my kitchen from Michoacan, and like we talk about birria, and like people bring me their recipes, or like, so it's just being able to stay true to what the craft is and like loving what you do. If you don't love what you do, then it's not good. Like if you're happy and you love what you do, you're going to make good food. And like the people around you will want to make good food with you.
So you're also well known for supporting so much of Vegas. You get involved in Picnic in the Alley, which is Women's Hospitality Institute. You do so many things out there. What about Vegas? What is it about Vegas that means like home to you?
So it's actually funny that you say that, because I've now been in Vegas for 6 years. I just moved to a house. Like, it feels like real now. But those first few years were hard. I moved out there to open a restaurant that didn't like work out because of the pandemic, and then we're opening Casa Playa, and like being on the strip, like you feel like polarized. Like the community of chefs that are like in the arts district, or like Chef Brian Howard, and like off strip versus strip. It's not like a battle, but it feels like two different worlds.
Right.
And I love both worlds. Like, why do I have to be stuck here when like I want to be out there with everyone else? So these like all of these like the picnic in the alley, all of these things that Jolene is putting together and stuff is like, it's a great way to show that, hey, we want to be here too. We want to support. We want to, like, because especially the Women's Hospitality Initiative and like Picnic in the Alley, I was blown away by how few female chefs there are out in Vegas. Like, I have come from restaurants that are 100% women, and I've worked under some incredible female leaders, and there's just not a lot of representation in Vegas, but half of the culinary industry is female. Like, more than half of my restaurant is female. I have 6 chefs, 4 of them are women, and they are powerhouses. They're with me today. And, like, that's, like, it's really cool to see that change and, like, be one of the people that are, like, representing what this city is, because I mean, you've been in Vegas for a while. The city has changed a lot. Like, just in the last 6 years, like from the pandemic to now, and it feels like there's a better sense of community, and it feels like everyone's coming together in a more real way and lifting each other up and lifting the city up.
You know, we just mentioned Brian. We brought up his work with mental health, and not only in his restaurants, but within the community. I got to talk to him as well, just throwing it out there for people. Go back to last week's episode or the week before. This is a huge thing for Vegas. We often get overlooked, and to find something like this happening here with somebody who is probably one of the most humble chefs I've ever talked to. Sarah's amazing. So I'm so glad that this got to be a part of the show, because she absolutely deserves every bit of it.
I definitely think she is, well, she's the present and much of the future of this town's culinary. So I can't wait to see, you know, how she rolls out, how she responds to the win. So,
right?
So that's our last clip. Thank you to all the chefs, all the industry professionals who have been on this show over the past 5 years. My best calculations, we've had well over 1,000 interviews over that time.
Oh my God.
I mean, and that's not hard to do because we have more than 4 people per episode, and we do 50 episodes a year.
Exactly.
And that's really easy. It could be 2,000. I don't know. But I'm sorry that we couldn't include more of our favorites. I hope you enjoyed the conversations we were able to share. Also, thank you, Rich, for bringing the cat to the party. I always love it when we have a feline presence.
The notorious BGC is.
That's right.
Yes.
He's now demanding payment in the form of chicken treats.
I have to say, as I searched the archives for our favorite interviews, one theme, listening to these people speak back to me, and if you listen to all of these today, I'm sure you heard it, one theme coming up over and over again: community. And it's that amazing community that inspires me to cover this beat. I have been privileged to report on the local culinary community for over 25 years. I am honored so many of its members have trusted me to tell their stories, oftentimes very difficult stories that they trusted me to tell. I only hope that I've done them justice. So I want to thank both of my former co-hosts, Jason Harris and Rick Moonen, as well as a lot of fill-in hosts. Thank you, Gemini, for pretty much taking the job and running with it.
Can I just jump in and say thank you, Al and Rich, for letting me do this, for including me, for, you know, you had me on for 1 or 2 things and it was a little bit fun, and then it became something bigger. And it's probably one of the best things I've been able to contribute to pretty much my entire career. And it hasn't always been food and writing and things like that. I have a pretty broad career in corporate and all kinds of other shit. Yeah. This episode, I'm going to tear up. This episode, it just reminds me of all of the things that we get to do and all the things that you've let me get into. So thank you to both of you.
Thank you for being part of it.
I will add a little bit on that. As someone who's been doing radio in one form or another for way too fucking long. And is still doing it, and still is hopping around from Chicago for a while, visiting, you know, traveling in Paris and DC and Cape Cod and all that. And now the last year in Seattle, I still get to keep a Vegas connection And boy, I do appreciate that. And I still get to have some fun on not the radio, but the podcast, talking to people who I know want to hear what we do. And thanks for the inclusion.
Well, thanks for being here. Thank you for everything you've done, both of you guys. Rich, behind the board, in front of it. Gemini, I love your engineering when I don't have to do it when I'm all frazzled. It's amazing. I want to thank everybody who has listened to a single episode or a single minute of any of this show. I really appreciate it. Please remember, everybody, eat well, drink well, tip well, and always stay hungry.